Greetings, Deep Dive Podcast listeners. This is your boy, Sam Orm, coming at you one more time with another episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. Guys, again, I'm really excited to be able to share some things with you. We're closing out Mental Health Awareness Month, the month of May. It has been an incredible month in terms of empowering people, in terms of, financial situations, mental situations, and the like. We're going to continue that on this particular episode. But before I get into that, those of you who are listening in around the world, again, I say this every week, but it's so true. I really appreciate all of your support in terms of what you do and how you help support the Deep Dive Podcast. With a lot of the input that we get from our international listeners and viewers, and also here domestically in the United States, it really empowers and encourages us to continue to bring you these topics. I think one of the things that we've done more so in season 2 is to bring a lot more educational and empowerment type of podcasts, because that's what you have requested. I know the guests are great, but most of the guests we're here for, entertainment and just a little bit more of a lighthearted type of podcast. But these particular solo episodes are a lot about empowerment and specifically some things that's going to help you change your lives forever. So I thank you again for all of your support and everything that you have done for the Deep Dive Podcast. Continue to support. We're on all the podcast platforms. Whatever you have, we're there on that platform. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, all of those major platforms. We're also on our YouTube channel, the Deep Dive Podcast with Sam Orem. So continue to support. This podcast episode is not going to be very long, but it is very, very powerful. And you may want to take some notes because, this is one of those things, again, as we close out Mental Health Awareness Month, this is one of those things that we all struggle with in some way, shape, or form. The title of this episode is actually Trouble Don't Last Always, right? And then there's a word, but. And really, when you think about that, we're talking about things that, trouble. Now, what does trouble mean? Sometimes trouble is just hard times, things that you're going through. It may be a difficult time frame or difficult time period, something to that effect. But then in a lot of cases, it could be forms of stress. It could be forms of mental anguish, whatever it may be. But we want you to know that trouble don't last always. But here's the thing we have to remember. There's a but there. And that but is, what are we doing about the situations that we find ourselves in when we talk about trouble? Let me kind of break down trouble a little bit for you, because sometimes people get things a little bit off when it comes to trouble, because there's some good trouble, if you will, some good pain, some good anguish when you really think about it. When you're talking about trouble and being synonymous with pain, well, think about what is some good pain? Well, the birth of a child. Well, obviously I've never had an opportunity to birth a child, but from everything that I've heard, it's a very painful experience. But as soon as that experience is done, it is so gratifying and rewarding. It is absolutely incredible. That's a situation where, you're talking about pain or trouble or things of that nature, but it's a good pain. It's good trouble. Even once that child is born and you start to raise the kid, to raise your child, then that could be considered hard. It could be considered troubling, but that also is very, very rewarding. When you get a new job, a new career, sometimes you have to go through some strenuous training or a learning curve or things of that nature where, it may be troublesome in the beginning, but once you've gone through that course, once you've been certified, if you will, then now you have a job, you have benefits, you have the things that you so desired as it relates to that job. So it's trouble. It's hard. It could be stressful, but it can also be very, very rewarding. Let's take one more example. Relationships. Relationships can be very difficult. They can be very troublesome. They could be very, very hard. But again, that doesn't last always. A lot of times in a relationship, you have to find what I call that sweet spot. In other words, being equally yoked, where you understand her or him and they understand you, right? That is being equally yoked, and not just from a spiritual standpoint, but also from an educational standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from a whatever it may be. You have that balance, you have that sweet spot in that relationship where now things are calm and you can, maintain that relationship for 10, 20, 30, 50 years, whatever the case may be, right? So those are some examples of what trouble and, hard times could be all about. But you understand that those things don't last always. You're not always pregnant. You're not always applying for a job. You're not always raising your children. At some point, they become adults. So you have to understand it from that standpoint. Here is the key, though, for you in terms of being successful and thriving even through trouble. The question to you that you should ask yourself is, what are you doing to advance your life, your career, your spirituality, whatever it is? What are you doing as opposed to just waiting through the trouble? What is it that you're doing? Because we understand nothing lasts always, not even trouble. And think about this, and I think I said this on last week's episode, but 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we all had problems in our lives, right? And at the time, they may have seemed incredibly difficult problems. But then here we are 5 years later, 10 years later, in a lot of instances, can't even remember what they were. Think about that for a second. As detrimental to life as it seemed then, you can't even remember what they were. Well, think about where you are today. Some of you may be in some serious situations where you just don't understand or don't know how you're going to get out of said situation. And you're stressing about it and you're having those troublesome conversations with yourself about it. I want to tell you and encourage you that even where you are today, this trouble is not going to last always. One thing that I know about life is from a spiritual, physiological standpoint, is that there has to be balance in life, even whether we want it or not. There's always balance. And if you do your own research, you do your own study, you'll know that this to be true. Wherever there is a up, there's a down. Where there's a left, there's a right. Where there's a night, there's a day, right? There's balance. When things aren't going good, is that proper grammar? Good, well, whatever it is, you know what I mean, right? When things aren't going the way you want them to go, then you have to understand that life owes you that balance. And at some point, that trouble not going to last always, because you have to have balance. Not that creating it. It is just the laws of nature. It is the laws of life. It is the law of spirituality. There is balance. If you're every action has a reaction. Every action has a consequence. So that's balance, So you have to understand that and think about it from that standpoint and know that wherever you are, this trouble is not going to last always, but you have to do what you're supposed to do. And I'll tell you, I'll be transparent with me. I struggle a lot with where is that balance for me? For example, there have been a lot of situations where I just really felt like I could not handle it myself. And I had to give it to God. I literally had to give it to God because I didn't know the answer. I didn't know which way to turn. I just had to give it to God. But then me and the person that I am, and I'm a bit of a control freak. I just want things A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, cross T's, dot I's. That's how I am, right? So it gets to a point where I'm thinking, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? In addition to giving it to God, what am I supposed to be doing? Am I just to sit on the couch and give it to God? Am I to work a little? Am I to work a lot? Where is that threshold? And to be honest with you, I still don't know. I still don't know where that threshold is. When you say you're giving it to God, mentally or theoretically, that seems to be an absolute, which means you just give it to God and you take your hands off of it. But then there have been numerous cases where, it seems as if it's not just that faith. It is a bit of action as well. But my challenge is how much action is not enough and how much action is too much. That is that but when we're talking about trouble don't last always, but that but is, what are you doing? What is that action that you're taking that's going to allow you to thrive even in the midst of giving those challenges to God, so to speak? Again, I don't have the answer to that because I struggled with that myself. But I do know that you have to do something as opposed to just waiting on God or waiting on your employer. I don't call them your boss. Only God is your boss. The people you work for they're your employers. I don't give anybody that power to say this is my boss. So if you ever say somebody is your boss, you want to change that vernacular right away. And if someone you work for is your employer, you're not giving that person that power. God is your boss, not your employer. Anyway, need I digress? But when you think about it, you just have to understand, what is your role? What is the part that you're supposed to be doing? And then you start to do that. A lot of times people will say that, I'm not going to take my medication because God is going to heal me. I had an aunt that, and you notice I prefaced it by saying had an aunt. I had an aunt that passed away. It's been many, many years ago. But she was one of those people who refused to take her medication in a situation where, God is going to take care of her. Well, here's that balance we talk about again. How much is it you're just going to give it to God and let them heal you, or you're going to give it to God, let them heal you in addition to you taking your medication? Everybody may believe different. Again, I don't personally know what that threshold is. But that's one of those things that you have to take into consideration. What is it that you're doing in addition to living through that trouble, right? What is it that you're doing? Now, let's think about some tangible things here in terms of how you can continue to progress beyond that trouble. First of all, that self-talk, Talk. Sometimes I have to spell it out because people told me that on these podcasts, I talk quickly and I have this Southern drawl and people don't understand what I'm saying. So sometimes I have to spell it out, but that self-talk, Talk. How do you deal with certain things? A lot of times people have these conversations with themselves, I can't. That's just that internal voice that's in your head that, it challenges you sometimes in the positive, and it affects you a lot of times in the negative. That self-talk is powerful, but it's also our thoughts. It's also our beliefs. We're driven by our thoughts and our beliefs. And a lot of that starts with that self-talk. So let's expand upon that a little bit. Let's think about this. Let's say you have a situation. Now we're talking about trouble, right? We're talking about trouble. You have a situation. Let's just say you're criticized at work. Okay, that is a situation that could cause stress. It could cause hard times. It could cause whatever it is, but that is your trigger. That is your situation. That is your trouble. You were criticized at work. That situation is now converted into thoughts, that internal thoughts. And now you're starting to think maybe, well, I'm not good enough. These are the things that go on in your head. Well, I'm not good enough. Somebody may have called you overweight and you start to think that, you're not beautiful. There's some gorgeous people who are considered overweight, so that has nothing to do with it, but it's that self-talk. It's that conversation that you're having with yourself. So that situation led to your thoughts. And a lot of times those thoughts can be negative. Okay, I'm not good enough. But then those thoughts turn to physical and emotional things. Let's look on the physical side. Those thoughts turn to, well, you may feel tired. You may have a loss of appetite. Some people go the opposite. They may binge eat. But those thoughts start to create physical situations. Your body reacts in a certain way. You can't sleep. You feel lackadaisical. You don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to do anything. Those are physical manifestations of those thoughts. So again, let's look at the hierarchy of how this is working. You go from that situation to those thoughts, those internal thoughts. to physical reactions and then also mental and emotional reactions. So what does that mean? Well, you start to feel worthless. You start to feel anxious about, proving people wrong. You start to feel that for a lot of men, they have, what do they call it? Middle-age syndrome, right? Because you start to feel a certain type of way once you get to a certain age. All of these are internal conversations, by the way. We're still talking about internal conversations. So you're having these thoughts, you're having these that thoughts that leads to, physical reactions and emotional reactions. And then all of that manifests itself into your behavior. Then you start to behave a certain way because of all of these reactions and emotions and things of people, avoid eye contact, you're no longer socially interactive, all of those things. So look at it, let's look at it in its totality, because this is very important. In hard times. So you have a situation. You can plug anything into that situation, whether, like I said, I use the example, you criticized at work, or someone call you overweight or ugly or whatever it may be. That is a situation. That is the initial trouble. Okay, right? That trouble leads to those inward thoughts. I'm not good enough. I am overweight, or I don't look good, or whatever it is. And those thoughts create a physical and emotional reaction. Physical reaction, you may just feel tired. You may feel lackadaisical, like I said. And then the emotional side of that whole equation, you start to feel worthless or anxious or whatever it may be. And then ultimately it changes your behavior to where you become withdrawn, where you become isolated, or at least feel isolated. You don't have connections with other people. That's a tragedy, guys. And all of this was created through your mindset, your own internal conversation. Mary J. Blige has a song out now. It's like something, Good Morning Gorgeous. Now, I don't know all the, lyrics to the song, but just those few words, good morning, gorgeous. I don't even know what the song is about. She could be talking about cows and pigs, but just those words. When you treat yourself with that inward thought and inward conversation in terms of positive self-talk, that's how you start to empower yourself. That's how you start to get beyond that trouble, that hard times, that stress. That now you're talking about positive self-talk. Look, I'm going to get through this. Whatever this is, I'm going to get through this. I'm stronger than I feel right now. Yeah, I may feel a certain way right now. I may be down. I may be fatigued, but I'm stronger than my current situation. So now you're starting to have these positive self-talk. Let me make a side note here too, something that's popped in my head. Positive self-talk and affirmations are two different things. And a lot of people like to use affirmations to affirm certain things. I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong. I'm bright, I'm bright, I'm bright. I'm fast, whatever it is. Those are affirmations. But let me just tell you, and this is from my own, this is my own opinion. Affirmations aren't as effective as positive self-talk. And here's why. You can affirm anything. That doesn't mean it's true. You can affirm that the sky is purple, the sky is purple, the sky is purple. I don't care how much you affirm that the sky is purple. It is not purple, right? You can affirm anything and it doesn't make it true. It is just that. It is an affirmation. So you have to be careful now. But positive self-talk is true and it is undeniable because it's based on your own opinion of yourself. It is undeniable. It cannot be disputed. That's why it's like an opinion. When someone gives you their opinion, if they lead a conversation by saying, and I do this all the time on my podcast, well, this is my opinion, and my opinion is, whatever that is, it is absolutely undisputable. You can't dispute it. You can't dispute facts, and you can't dispute opinions. Okay? Those things you cannot dispute. So a positive self-talk, those are opinions, and they're opinions of yourself, and it cannot be disputed. Affirmations can be disputed. Because again, you can affirm that the sky is purple. It is not. Does that make sense? I hope so. So when you continue that positive self-talk, you'll say to yourself, you know what, this situation is temporary, because you understand what we just talked about. Trouble don't last always. But here's this but. These are the things that you still have to do, even in the midst of the trouble. That's why I said but. You can't just sit there and wait for something to happen. You got to do certain things. And this positive self-talk is a part of it. Look, I can do this. I can handle this. Whatever that trouble is, I can do it. I can handle it. I'm allowed to feel this way, and I'm going to learn from this particular situation. I'm going to grow from it. These are conversations now that you're having with yourself, positive self-talk that cannot be disputed. I will go easy on myself. I'm not going to, I'm talking about you, talking about yourself in terms of positive self-talk. Okay, I may be overweight, but so what? I love me. I love me some me. Like Mary J say, good morning, gorgeous. It's okay. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Something else that popped in my mind. A lot of times stuff just randomly pop in my mind because most of these podcasts aren't scripted, so it's just kind of off the cuff. But I remember when I was in Mombasa, Kenya, and over in Africa, ladies who are from a North American standpoint considered overweight, they are adored in Africa. And and being in Mombasa, seeing these gorgeous women and overweight, and then to see how men would react to these overweight women, it's just the opposite in North America. It just goes to show that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so you should not allow someone else's opinion of you become your reality. Let me say that again. Do not allow someone else's opinion of you to become your reality. Continue that self-talk where you may say, I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of respect. Don't get into a situation. One of the examples I gave you earlier in terms of that situation, remember the thing that started the trouble, could be relationships. Don't allow a relationship to dictate how you feel because there is a lack of respect. Everybody has to respect you, but it has to start by you respecting yourself. If you don't have that positive respect, positive self-talk for yourself, then this is what's going to allow people to really bring you down in a certain way just based on how they're feeling. Most of the time when people are trying to down somebody else or bully somebody else, it's because they lack something in their own lives, right? You know how to get rid of a bully? Bust them in the mouth, hit them in the back of the head with a brick, whatever you need to do. Bullies are punks anyway. As soon as you go on the offensive, then they shy away. Well, there's no difference in a bad relationship. Don't allow a relationship to disrespect you. As soon as you respect yourself, that's like you're standing up to a bully. There's so many people out there that love you for who you are, how you are, and here in North America, and I talk a lot about North America because, again, I know we have an international audience, but here in North America, it seems as if all of us are always looking for the opposite of who we are. What do I mean by that? People who are thin, they feel like they need to gain muscle or weight. People who have muscle or weight, a lot of times they feel like they're overweight. They need to go on a diet. Dark skin. I've seen dark skinned people try to use this bleach stuff to get brighter. I just couldn't understand it. Then you got bright skinned people put on dark makeup to look darker. You got people with short hair putting weave and wigs to have long hair. People with long hair, they cut it off with a bob to, everybody's trying to do the opposite of who they are. Why? Because they're looking for that acceptance, when in actuality, that acceptance is within you. It's within you. I've seen my future wife, Janet Jackson. I've seen my future wife, Janet Jackson. I've seen her with some ugly dudes. I ain't going to call no names because I don't want to get sued. But I've seen her with some ugly dudes, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I know I got a chance if she messing with that. I know I got a chance if she messing with that. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think she's the most gorgeous woman that God ever created, but she's messing with some dogs. Well, that's just how she look at it, right? So Let me stop. I get it every week. I get in trouble by saying something. So let me get back and close out with this positive self-talk. In all seriousness, guys, you have to have these inner conversations with yourself that's going to empower you, that's going to uplift you, right? You know, I can let go of anger, because if you're an angry person, just say to yourself, speak positively, that you can let go of anger. You can let go of fear. I talked about that, I think, last week's episode in terms of how to get rid of fear. You know, you can let in love and joy. When you get rid of anger, when you get rid of fear, that allows space for love and joy to come into your life, right? No matter what happens, say to yourself, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. If you believe in God, if you believe in a creator, understand that you have to understand that it's going to be okay. It's just a lot of times it's one step at a time. It's taking one step at a time. It is becoming who you want to become, but you're doing it one step at a time. And that's very important for all of us to know and to understand. So look, guys, I'm going to, like I said, I wanted to have a short podcast, but it is very important. As we close out again, the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, it is important for you to understand that regardless of where you are right now, in your own situation, it's not going to be this way always. The economy is in a bad situation right now. But you have to remember, you know, even if you weren't here, just through history, that we had a Great Depression. I think it was 1929. And through the Great Depression, things were infinitely worse than it is now. And this country came back and thrived, right? Trouble don't last always. You got the pandemic going on, you know, different variants consistently popping up around the world. It's not going to last always. Some of you remember that, you know, polio and measles and mumps and all these other things. That trouble doesn't last always. You got this war that's going on with Ukraine and the potential of other wars and threats being made and things of this nature. Well, we've been through 2 world wars, and as bad as they were, an infinite amount of other wars around the world, as bad as they were, at some point they ended, and trouble don't last always. So I can give you example after example after example where there is and has been trouble, but in every situation, it didn't last always. The key is that word but. But what is it that you're doing right now in the midst of your trouble? See, yeah, gas prices are high for a lot of people, but gas prices are irrelevant for people of wealth. They don't care that the gas prices are $5, $6, $9, whatever it may be. They don't care about that. Why? Because they have grown financially to a point where it doesn't bother them, but it affects most people, right? So what does that mean? That means we have room to grow financially. When someone offers you an opportunity to grow financially, you have to understand where you are so that you'll understand where you need to be. Trouble don't last always, but you have to do something. You know, if you're in a situation where you just feel absolutely hopeless and helpless and things of that nature, and I mentioned this in the previous episode, talk to somebody, talk to a mentor, a friend, a family member, a counselor, call someone, do whatever you have to do to support so someone can help you through that situation, because trouble don't last always, but you have to make that phone call. You have to make that phone call. You have to do something in addition in order to continue to thrive. So with all of these things that are happening, guys, all of these challenges, I would encourage everybody to have a life plan now moving forward. Have a life plan, regardless of where you are. If you're in your teens, your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 80s, it doesn't matter. I would encourage everybody to get off this podcast as soon as you heard this podcast, and to make sure you have a life plan in place so that you can control your own future. A lot of trouble, if you will, hard times and stress, it comes about because there is a lack of a plan. There is a lack of, you really didn't prepare for what tomorrow may hold. And you have to be able to do that. Okay. So I would encourage you strongly to do that. I'll probably do an episode on your life plan because it is just that critical. I'm talking about if you're a teenager. I mean, I really wish I knew some of the things when I was a teenager or just going to college at Florida A&M that I know now. I would have done so many things differently. People say, I wouldn't change nothing in my life. Well, that's you. I would change probably everything. Everything, especially from building and finance. You know how much money we spend in college in terms of dorm fees or apartment fees or things of that nature. Wonder if, this is just one little quick side note, wonder if in college, instead of just renting an apartment for 4 years from somebody else or 5 years or whatever it may be, you were able to acquire just a small little same type of apartment, 1-bedroom studio, whatever it is. You lived there for 4 years. Now you're paying that particular mortgage, toward your own property. But guess what? Once you graduate after 4 years or 5 years, you rent that property out. At some point, you will have purchased that property. Now you own a property in your own college town, and you own a property there. You can build upon that. You know how much money we gave for dorm and apartments and things of that nature in college? Had I known, there was a food truck guy that in Florida A&M, some of my FAMU people who are on this podcast, you'll know and appreciate a guy, we called him Soul Train. He would go around and sell cookies and, sell sodas and water or whatever it is. We called him Soul Train. And I remember there was like a little food truck that was on campus, and late night we would go get cookies or whatever it may be. Wonder if I had just gotten a food truck, when I was in college, and not only serviced my college mates, but used that as a business opportunity. And not only could I have used that particular model at Florida A&M, I could have used it at any university. Could have had a franchise of food trucks throughout the country. You know how much money I would have made even as a college student? These are things that I'm talking about when I say, had I known. Well, it's never too late. It's never too late for you to create a plan for the rest of your life, whether that's 1 day or 100 years. It's never too late to create that plan. It starts with having that positive self-talk, though. I can do it. I will do it. I'm going to do it. It's done. Everybody with me? All right, great. So thank you guys for joining me on this particular episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. It's a lot of fun doing these podcasts and just sharing messages with you of empowerment, entertainment. I know I keep saying this, but we're going to get guests on. I did want to get through the month of May because it was Mental Health Awareness Month, to focus on a lot of things from your financial health to your mental health, spiritual health, and the like. So we wanted to do that. Again, guys, do me a favor. It helps me a lot with my algorithms and helps me grow the podcast. If you like, subscribe, download, and share these podcasts, go to the website, thedeepdivepodcast.live, Live. And, just listen to some of the previous episodes, especially if it's something that pertains to what's going on in your life. All of them, everyone has some type of message that can empower your life. But go back and listen to some of these episodes. We're in year 2. We're going to be closing out year 2 soon. And there's a lot of a wealth of information there that can help you. But go to the deepdivepodcast.live, go to our YouTube channel, the Deep Dive Podcast with Sam Oram. Take a look at some of the videos, some of the previous podcasts, and just continue to empower yourself and grow your vision, grow your mission, and grow your purpose. With that, guys, I appreciate you once again for joining me on the Deep Dive Podcast. Let's continue to grow together, and I'll see you on the beaches of the world. God bless.